Previously, we covered the core foundations. Now in part 6, we tackle Venus, exploration and open questions. Orbital dispatch, Venus. Episode 6, exploration and open questions. We've mapped the surface, studied the atmosphere, and modeled the climate. But Venus still refuses to give up its biggest secrets. In this episode, we look at where exploration stands today and what scientists most urgently want to find out next. Last episode, we covered Venus's atmosphere and its runaway greenhouse effect in detail. Now, with that foundation in place, the question becomes, after decades of missions, what do we still not know? And why does it matter? Act 1. What we've sent there. Humanity has been trying to reach Venus since the early 1960s. It was, in many ways, our first serious target beyond the moon. The Soviet Venera program is still the most remarkable effort in planetary exploration most people have never heard of. Between 1970 and 1982, a series of Venera landers actually survived long enough on the surface to return data. The longest any of them lasted was just over 2 hours. 2 hours at temperatures around 465 degrees Celsius, under pressures 90 times greater than Earth's surface pressure. That's roughly equivalent to being 900 meters underwater. NASA's Magellan spacecraft, which arrived in 1990, used radar to map over 98% of the surface. What it revealed was a world dominated by volcanic plains, thousands of volcanoes, and a surface that appears to be geologically young, perhaps resurfaced within the last few 100 million years. But here's the thing that has puzzled researchers ever since. We don't fully understand why. Act 2. The unanswered questions. Venus is almost exactly the same size as Earth. Its gravity is about 90% of ours. It sits at roughly 108 million kilometers from the Sun. By many measures, it should be Earth's twin, and yet it evolved into something almost unrecognizable. The central open question is whether Venus is geologically active right now. Recent analysis of archival Magellan radar data, published in 2023, suggested that at least one volcanic vent may have changed shape over a period of just 8 months during the mission. That's not confirmed volcanic activity, but it is a serious indication. If Venus is still volcanically active, that changes how we understand planetary evolution across the solar system. A second major open question concerns water. Venus may have had liquid oceans early in its history. Models suggest it could have remained habitable for as long as 2 billion years before something triggered the runaway greenhouse warming we see today. What triggered that shift, and when, is still genuinely unknown. And then there's the atmosphere. At an altitude of around 50 kilometers, temperatures and pressures are surprisingly Earth-like. In 2020, a team announced the detection of phosphine in those cloud layers, a gas that on Earth is associated with biological processes. Subsequent analysis significantly reduced the confidence in that detection, and the scientific community remains divided. It hasn't been confirmed, but it hasn't been fully ruled out either. That question is still open. Act 3. What comes next? 3 major missions are now in development specifically to address these gaps. NASA's Da Vinci probe is designed to descend through the atmosphere and directly sample it. NASA's Veritas orbiter will produce a new, high-resolution map of the surface. And ESA's Envision mission will combine radar mapping with atmospheric observation. All 3 are currently targeted for the 1930s, the early part of that decade, though timelines in planetary science have a habit of shifting. Together, they represent the most coordinated scientific effort at Venus in more than 30 years. The goal is straightforward. Find out whether Venus was ever habitable, whether it's still active, and why 2 nearly identical planets ended up so differently. Venus is not a failed Earth. It's a planet with its own complex history that we haven't fully read yet. The next decade of exploration may finally start to answer questions that have been sitting open since Magellan signed off. If you're following this series, the The full Venus playlist is linked below. Worth watching in order if you've just joined us. If you find this kind of careful, grounded science useful, subscribing helps the channel keep making it. That is part 6 of Venus. Subscribe so you do not miss it.